Alright kids, when you can't pronounce this three-letter word without transposing the S and the K, then you lose me. I'm sorry, but I'll never take anyone who pronounces this exceedingly simple three-letter word incorrectly seriously. The word is ask, and there's no accepted exclusion due to upbringing.
Like when you say ask instead of ax.
Xmas, huh? You know, this'll be my first Xmas away from home.
Hey, let me ax you something.
I wear a lot of Axe body spray. But I live in a black neighborhood and it's called Ask body spray. And if you don't get that joke, then you're not racist.
I saw you make a face when she said instead of the word asks, she said askses. I saw you make a face.
That's racist.
I saw you go in your head. Oh, well, that's why they said something. I saw you say it.
I know.
Why'd she say axes?
Axes. She didn't say axes.
She did.
She said axes.
Axes.
Well, apparently, in my previous video, I said this controversial word one way and then another, like this. Help from my assigned publisher who would send me pitches and any resource I might ask for. Then, I go back to the person who hired me, email them, and ask, cute over here and real cute over here. Thank you, Zendaya. It was the comment section that told me about my askuses. What I said at the beginning of the video is from one comment in particular. So today we're going to talk about the word ask. I think I got it. And if ax is wrong, an incorrect pronunciation, a phonetic issue, just different, or a grammatical error. But we'll focus on the question, why can't black people say ask? According to NPR, it is not a new thing. It is not a mistake, says Jesse Scheidlauer. It is a regular feature of English. Scheidlauer says you could trace ax back to the 8th century. The pronunciation derives from the Old English verb axion. Geoffrey Chaucer used ax. It's in the first complete English translation of the Bible. Ax, and it shall be given. From the Canterbury Tales, the Knight's Tale by the aforementioned Chaucer came, Ye lovers, ax I now this question. You want me to say this and I can barely say ax? Ask, crap. This means, who hath the worse between these two? The Oxford English Dictionary says that ask originally meant to call for, call upon a person or thing personified to come. So, going back to the Old English, askian, it comes from this Proto-Germanic word right here. But most of the earliest recorded instances, like in Beowulf, are of the ax form. This means after he sought misery from pride. Both ask and ax work. Aside from the fact that when it comes to spoken language, you understand the context. With that said, when debunking myths and misconceptions about diction, Harvard Gullah instructor and sociolinguist instructor Sun Michaud says being pedantic about this topic is a dick move.
But this is not about etymology. This is about pronunciation. Not of ax, but of ask.
However, I recently noticed that when I say ask, I don't usually pronounce the K at all. So, let me ask you a question.
See, the irony is that most of the time when people are correcting them, over-enunciate the word ask for dramatic effect. But when they actually use the word ask in normal everyday conversation, it sounds more like, did you ask Timothy? Why, yes, I asked Timothy. So while your conditioned brain may be pedantic about pronunciations, your tongue knows that words are simply sounds and will always look for the most fluent way to stitch them together.
So, we've established that since yesteryear, in the days of yore, up to modern day, even white people have used ax, ask, and as, which, I can't stress enough, is fine. It's normal. So normal that there's a word for this phenomenon. Metathesis is what occurs when two sounds or syllables switch places in a word. This happens all the time in spoken language. Think nuclear pronounced as nuclear, and asterisk pronounced as asterisk, along with ask and ax. Metathesis is a common linguistic process around the world. It can kind of be like a slip of the tongue per thought.co and does not arise from a defect in speaking. Nevertheless, ax has become stigmatized and substandard, a fate that has befallen other words like ain't that were once perfectly acceptable in educated society. Creator Abraham Piper described metathesis and more here.
For example, no one corrects you when you swap T and R in comfortable and say comfortable instead. Same with ax and ask. They've always been interchangeable. But then over time, for reasons having nothing to do with correct grammar, Ask became the pronunciation of those in power, and ax of those with less power. And here we arrive at the cultural explanation. When enslaved Africans learned English, they mainly learned it from European indentured servants, who used ax. Thus it became a perfectly natural, and therefore correct, element of African American vernacular English.
Abraham Piper will go on to say, stop calling other people's native language bad grammar. It's rude. Before quoting American linguist John McWhorter from his opinion piece in the LA Times called The Ask versus Ask Question. It's pompous, pretentious. People looking down on black folks saying they don't even speak the king's English. At least that's what they think they sound like. And since this is their king, they probably go fishing in a creek instead of a creek and put their dog on a leash instead of a leash. If I were to ask them, that's like 3 out of 5, baby, how to say a word, any word, correctly, I hope their best argument wouldn't be say it how it's spelled, because everyday speech tells us that makes no sense. For instance, I may edit this video in the middle of the week. You may refer to it as hump day. What day is it? Say it. Wednesday? Right, that's how it's spelled. I'm also working on videos for the second month of the year, when Valentine's Day and Black History Month take place. Starts with an F. What's it called? February? Yeah. English is bad like that. It's inconsistent with everything, literally and figuratively. So are the people who have a problem with ask. I mean, I just mispronounced everything based on how it's spelled, and they weren't going to say anything about it. The people in my comment section trying to correct the way I speak. I was tempted to find content they've made in order to show them that they don't maintain standard American English either. But What's Good English already did that when someone was acting a fool in his comment section for a video he made about ask versus ax.
And then we got a fully ripe one already. I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna take them blueberry seeds out of it.
Willie, I do not think the textbooks or the American English teachers of the United States are going to sign off on this dialect of yours. I mean, is amina even a word? Could you help me out with the spelling of that, Willie? I couldn't find it in the dictionary. Or did you just mean to say I'm going to?
What's Good wondered why Willie wouldn't be on our side then. He and those like him can express themselves freely, knowing that we make up words all the time in English. He did it and does it, but the Willies of the world don't like it when we do it. See, it's not that Middle America doesn't like black culture. Actually, help me out with this. Is it that they want to keep many things for themselves that aren't native to them, like black pepper and spices? And they're willing to allow brown people to participate in and practice some aspects of their own civilization and society without being a part of it themselves, like using black pepper and spices? Still, white people will claim that we have crap music and crap culture, but the terminology that's created by black people, women, and queer communities specifically is everybody's. That's just Gen Z slang they say Caucasianly. However, they never tried to steal AAVE. I say as much in my video about AAVE from a few years ago. How is Black English or Ebonics illegitimate and not American Standard English? They come from the same place at the same time. Furthermore, if AAVE is a bastardized version of a language or a dialect, then why isn't South African English or Australian English? I've used 3 different video clips now, with mine making 4, featuring history, etymology, and citing linguists, and none of what we've done combined will equal the amount of views that this video on YouTube got of a black woman whose argument amounts to ask is posing a question and an ax is a tool. Anti-blackness can come from black people too, and it gets you clicks. If you want to show me the definitions of ask and ax in order to prove what those words actually mean today, like it does something, cool. Hey, what did the word cool originally mean, and what does it mean now? Yeah, words have meaning, and those meanings change. And what I'm about to say isn't the most scientific definition, but language is kind of this fluid, ever-changing, ever-evolving thing that human people use in order to vocally and verbally communicate with one another. And what matters most is if a certain amount of people around you understand what you're trying to convey and accept it. If you don't accept when, say, a black woman says ax, you might want to ask why. As for the question I was supposed to answer all along, why can't black people say ask? She can if she wants to, in multiple ways. Oh, and the rest of that comment from earlier read, which is spelled the same way as read. That's the English language for you. Quote, you can either speak the language or you can't. I'm not interested in your justification/excuses. I don't want anyone speaking for me or my cause who sounds like a ghetto rat. It does nothing to forward the cause of truth to speak like a plebeian, but only serves to cheapen and disparage it. So there's that. Look, some have had a problem with the name of my YouTube channel, yet they tell me that the way it should be said is, we're going to be all right. They're letting me know that they get it, so we're gonna be all right.
English is not prescriptive. English doesn't tell us how to communicate. We tell English how we want to communicate. Do you understand what I'm saying? Black people do this all the time. Watch how the world reacts differently, though, when black folks make up words, make up sayings, make up phrases. Watch how differently they react to that than to the words that Shakespeare and others just created.